As a gardener, one of the many things that distressed me as I became more and more exhausted, and finally as my health crashed, was my inability to get out into the garden and to make it look the way I wanted it to be, often the way I thought it should be, with no weeds and neatly manicured edges to the lawn. And being ill really taught me a different way of being in the garden. So I'm sitting here on this lovely mid-June morning, essentially on the edge of a hay meadow. I decided, as I always do, to go with no mow May, which is a month in which we don't mow the lawn. I'm hoping the wind isn't getting too loud here. We don't mow the lawn so that the wildlife that lives on it can flourish. So I can see a bee now amongst the clover, and the grasses are just swaying in the breeze. And it's been so beautiful this year that I've decided that even though it's into June, I'm going to wait until these grasses have finished flowering before I mow the lawn. So just in that shift of perspective, I've saved myself something like 5 weeks of mowing, and nature's created something beautiful for me. I'll take a few more pictures in a minute so you can just see more closely what's in there. If I hadn't come out this morning, I wouldn't have spotted this bumblebee sunbathing on a leaf, maybe drying itself out after the rain of yesterday. Another way that I managed to do a bit in the garden without overwhelming myself was just to take a very small job and break it down into little steps. Now this is my garlic crop. So I planted this in November, and all I needed to do, after I had quickly hoed off the weeds on the top, just literally slicing them under and raking them off in a couple of minutes with a trowel, I broke up a garlic bulb and made little holes and stuck a clove in each one, covered it over. That was in October, because garlic really needs the cold of the winter to do well. And all I've done since then is a bit of weeding in between, and that looks like pretty much a year's crop of garlic. And I say weeding, I used to think of weeding as this huge job that I needed to go out and clear a big area or do it all at once. Now I think of it much more as something that I do in passing, in little bits, which makes it manageable. So I've come out into the garden this morning and I come and had a look at my garlic, and I just notice as I'm passing, are there any little weeds in there that I can pull out? Just pull them out and put them on the top. There's a nasturtium there from last year. I don't have to have it all perfect. Little and often, and then I can walk on and do something else. When I was ill, I would do that and then have a sit down in a chair for a few minutes and then get up and do a little bit more. And actually, if you take that approach of just a little bit and then sit down and rest, and then a little bit more, another little bit of rest, it's amazing how much you can get done. But also it's really good for you exercise wise, just to be outside, gently moving, getting your balance back again, making your legs remember what it's like to actually walk around outside. Just looking here at the buds that are about to break on the honeysuckle, which are going to be amazing. And it's really important when you're healing to take that time, not to do things in the garden, but just to look at it and see how marvellous it is. What can you spot? So here, I bring the camera in. I've just seen there's a late Aquilegia bloom, also known as Granny's bonnets. If I'd come out here to do some weeding, I would probably have missed that. With weeds, it can also be really helpful to have that same shifting of perspective. It's a hard one, and I will still look at the weeds coming up through this paving and think, there's a job that needs to be done. But I haven't got time to do it now. I've got to go in and do some work. So rather than feeling bad about it and feeling guilty because I can't do everything at once, I can just look a little bit closer and appreciate the weeds while they're there before I take them out. So I can get down close and look at this beautiful blue of a forget-me-not. See that shadow on the wall of the weed as it's nodding in the breeze. And hear the birds in the background, the bumblebees. And I can look along a little bit further, some more weeds. I can look at the colour of those dandelions and know that while they are there and blooming, those bees are feeding on them. So by doing nothing, I am doing something for the bees. And it eases my mind. Mindful gardening. Just being in the garden, slowly, and just looking at what there is to see. I have a friend who lives in Oxfordshire, and I was speaking to her recently. She'd been on a wonderful afternoon with the National Garden Scheme, visiting gardens in her area. And although she'd enjoyed herself, she was quite reflective. And she was saying to me that there were very few of the gardens she visited where she actually felt at home. She lives in a very wealthy area, and she said that most of them were absolutely immaculate. They'd obviously been created by landscape gardeners who designed them and done all the work. But there wasn't really a sense of the people who lived in them. And she, as I say, just did not feel comfortable there. And then she went home to her own garden where she felt absolutely at peace. And as we talked in the past, often she's been in her garden and we'll hear the birds. And so that week she'd actually sent me a beautiful gift. She'd just recorded the blackbird and sent it to me in a text. From her home to mine, as she put it. Well, this is my garden. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for me because it's mine. And I know every inch of it, and it expresses who I am. And part of who I am is somebody who is working and trying to create a garden, trying to find a balance in life, trying to make sure that I don't go back to being ill. So the washing is part of it. The washing says there's a family lives here. And here's something else I've done to try and make life a little bit easier. There's a tendency for all the weed seeds to blow up against the house in that gap between the paving and the wall. Takes a huge amount of weeding. So last year I bought a packet of thyme seed, about £1, and I've scattered it all the way around the edge. It's not filled in the gaps yet, but it's beginning to, which means that I have the plants that I want here. And yeah, some of the weeds will get through, but there will be far, far fewer. And very soon, all of this along here will be purple and again full of bees. So many bees. And I can't finish a video here without including some pictures of this amazing hillside and the area where there are no weeds. As Gerard Manley Hopkins said, long live the weeds and the wilderness yet.
If you found this video helpful, please do click on like below and subscribe to my channel. You might also like to hop across using the links to my Facebook or LinkedIn pages where you'll find much more content.